Hello, my name's Ivan Cooper, and I'm going to read an extract from my book Tibetan Pilgrimage. During my time in Tibet, I visited the monastic settlement of Yarchen. This is a shanty town of wooden huts that has grown up over the years around the hermitage of a living saint named Achi Khenpo. I travelled to Yarchen with Lekpa Dorje, a Tibetan whom I'd first encountered quite by chance about a week earlier on a bus. Lekpa Dorje plods, I limp. The sun disappears behind a thick blanket of cloud, and the wind starts to gust. Blowing into us, it further impedes our passage. Then, after a seemingly endless slog across a humpbacked ridge, the landscape opens out below us, and we get our first view of Yarchen. Imagine a settlement with no town planning, no electricity, water or telephone pylons, a community without police or any form of public services, and you'll get some idea of the ramshackle haphazard chaos that is Yarchen. Hundreds, possibly thousands, of narrow wooden huts sprawl across the hillside in unruly disarray. The only larger structures are clearly monastic in function, and Lekpa Dorje points out the distinctive straight lines of an assembly hall, and to its rear, the nerve centre of the entire settlement, Achi Khenpo's private residence. My first reaction to all this merry chaos is one of wonder, that such a place could actually exist. The second of puzzlement. What on earth do they do with all the garbage? I don't have to wait long to find out what happens to the Yarchen garbage. It rings the settlement like a moat, a fetid no man's land of rotting filth. It also serves as feeding ground to a vicious-looking band of pariah dogs. Rather than the muscular mastiffs of the nomads, these are a mongrel breed, lean and nasty with hungry bloodshot eyes. Kinyan, mutters Lekpa Dorje, literally crazy dogs. But the same word denotes the rabid, and I guess this is what he means, because he unleashes a furious barrage of stones at any animal reckless enough to approach. Once we are across the rubbish dump, the stink subsides, but still caution is imperative. Like commandos patrolling through enemy streets, we pause at every corner, missiles in hand, ready to ward off canine assault. Along the way, we pass a nun enjoying an alfresco crap in a gully by the side of the track. Yarchen, of course, has no toilets or sewage system. On spotting us, she covers her head in a shawl for shame. How can people live like this, I wonder? Somewhat superfluously, because quite obviously they just do. Though a short distance to Cousin Bardol's place, with all the stopping and starting and stone throwing, it takes no little time to reach. She is waiting for us when we arrive, an attractive girl in her early 20s, the severity of her freshly shaved scalp offset by a bubbly smile. She leads us through a narrow gate and into a tiny garden full of flowers, all tulips, which have been planted in neat regimented rows. The bloom is tremendous. There are reds, greens, yellows, and other more fantastic colours. Electric pink, orange pinstripes on mauve, even black and white polka dots. For, horticultural alchemist that she is, Bardol has made a practice of planting only plastic flowers. They're beautiful, I tell her. I can think of nothing more appropriate to say. And in their own extraordinary way they are. The doorway leads through a cramped kitchen to the bedroom Bardell shares with another slightly older nun. Pin-ups of pop stars and models in swimsuits vie for wall space with sober portraits of Tibetan lamas in an odd, if not wholly unsurprising juxtaposition of the worldly and unworldly. On top of a makeshift table sits a plastic cassette player of the most garish shade of pink. Bardell, after all, is barely out of her teens, and despite her renunciation of the world, the room is saturated with the atmosphere of adolescent sexuality. One of the first things Bardell asks me is whether I have a camera. The answer being yes, a roll of film is promptly placed in my hand. "Tomorrow you will photograph me," she enjoins. The next morning, almost as soon as we are up, she is preening herself in front of the mirror, surrounded by open jars of face powder, rouge, and at least 3 different shades of lipstick. Though such efforts surely merit more glamorous accoutrement than her monastic robes, Bardell is no apostate, and only a bright pink hat with an enormous brim is allowed to offset the severity of her clothing. Surprisingly enough, this odd combination works, and she looks quite captivating. Outside, the ground is carpeted in last night's snow. Its pristine whiteness, a perfect foil for the gaudy beauty of the plastic flowers. Bardell tilts her hat at a jaunty angle and poses playfully amongst the tulips. After moving to the rooftop, where I photograph her against the backdrop of Yachen, she scampers out through the gate, returning shortly with a matching pair of plastic buckets and a long bamboo pole. Then, in what could almost be a parody of a scene from an 18th century pastoral, she pivots the pole on her left shoulder, balances the buckets at either end, and poses with a pink watering can. It is an impressive sight, as extraordinary as it is ridiculous, and all the more foreign for the vague familiarity of its prototypes.